Welcome to Kauai, Hawaii. Enjoy this beautiful helicopter ride with us. Welcome to Christian Dominique's world. I'm a traveler who's been to 135 plus countries and who would like to share with you some of my adventures. Feel free to comment and subscribe to get more amazing content. Don't be shy to write what you think and looking forward to read you. Very easy boarding on this beautiful day.
Aloha folks, good morning.
And it's also Isabel's birthday this morning.
Today we got Isabel who's celebrating a birthday. Haole lahanau to you, Isabel. We got Lawrence, Claudius, Christian, Taylor, Jamie. Welcome aboard everybody. Aloha. There's a little there. You got it? Oh, there he goes. It's a microphone. Squeeze that button. Hold it close to your mouth. He's got it in his hand. There you go. You got to hold it real close to your mouth to talk into it. Where are you guys from?
We're from Canada.
All right. Well, welcome. There's a Tyler got a microphone. Push that button. Hold it close to your mouth. Welcome. Where are you guys from?
San Diego.
San Diego. Just off the right, this is the Kauai Marriott Resort with the green roof there. The beach directly in front of it is called Kalapaki Beach. Now normally I'd say that's a great beach to do some stand-up paddleboarding or trying your hand at some surfing, but with all that brown water down there, I'd give it a couple of days. But we also have Na Wili Wili Harbor here. It's the main receiving point for all the goods, shipped right here to paradise. That song that was playing in the background, some of you might remember it from the movie Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. The reason why it's playing in this particular spot here, well, there's a river just off our right side there called the Huleia River. Getaway scene where he jumps into the seaplane, takes off on the water. That's where that was filmed. This river was also seen in theaters last summer in a movie starring Goldie Hawn and Amy Schumer. It was called Snatched. And we have this large pond just to the right side of the river here called the Alikoko Fish Pond, or more commonly known as the Menehune Fish Pond. Oh, and also for you birthday folks, there's two restaurants on the island. One is right down here at Kalapaki. It's called Duke's. And then in Poipu, it's called Keoki's Paradise. Both owned by the same owners, but two different names. But if you go in there for your birthday, tell them it's your birthday, and they'll give you a free hula pie. If you guys never heard of a hula pie, it is delicious. It's a crushed Oreo cookie crust It's vanilla and macadamia nut ice cream smothered in whipped cream, hot chocolate, and sprinkled with macadamia nuts. So there's a ridge line just on our left side. If you keep on following that ridge line till it takes a little dip, at the base of that dip down there, a little dirt road. In the movie Descendants, that's where George Clooney and his family stood atop, looking out at the ocean. So throughout the flight today, as we make our way around the island, we're going to see a bunch of empty fields or pastures, just like we have on either side here. Well, just over 20 years ago, most of this was all sugarcane. It just became too expensive to grow that sugarcane here on Kauai, ship it off to Northern California for processing, so we no longer commercially grow any sugarcane on this island. Now a little interesting piece of trivia, especially for you California guys. I'm sure you've all seen those packets of sugar that said CNH sugar. Well, because all the sugar was processed in California but shipped from Hawaii, it stands for California and Hawaii Sugar. And speaking of sugarcane, just on our left-hand side is a large body of water down there. It's called the Waita Reservoir. It is man-made. It was created to supply irrigation water to the sugarcane fields. As a young kid, though, I grew up fishing for largemouth bass out of this reservoir. That's because you see the little neighborhood to the left of it. Well, that's where I grew up. That's in the town of Koloa.
Did the storm stir up all the mud and silt?
Yeah, so basically all of the runoff, the ground around us doesn't saturate much water, and besides, with all of the heavy amounts of rainfall, it had no choice but to run down the mountainsides, down any low-lying, sloping areas, and that's what caused all of the reddish brown colored. So we have some light trade winds blowing on the ground today. They were about 13, 14 miles an hour. Hopefully that's going to keep things kind of cool and kind of keep that mugginess down a little bit. What it's going to mean for us in flight as we fly around some of these mountainous areas. There are periods of times we're going to experience a little bit of bumpiness. It's nothing at all to be worried about though. You see what happens is the wind, well, it likes to parallel the Earth's surface. So when it does hit these vertical rises, it shoots up into the sky. Well, there's that thing called gravity. It brings it back down again. In aviation terms, we call this phenomenon mountain waves, giving us a little bit of a bumpy ride. But the sights that I'm going to be pointing out to you guys in some of these areas, well, I sure am hoping they're just going to make you forget all about any of those bumps you might have felt. Out the left side near the shoreline are some dark green colored fields starting, and they go quite a ways ahead of us there. That's the Kauai coffee plantation, with 3,100 acres of coffee being grown right here on the island. The Kauai Coffee Company is the largest single coffee producer in the United States. So our first round of bumps are going to occur here in a second. So the first scenic attraction that we're going to go visit this morning, it's called the Manawaiapuna Waterfall. Manawaiapuna means the spiritual springs, but this waterfall is more commonly known as the Jurassic Park waterfall. So it was that waterfall that was seen in the very first Jurassic Park movie where they landed the helicopter right at the base of this waterfall. Now it's still just a short bumpy ride upstream. Once we get in closer, I'm going to make a couple of turns. I'm going to put it on both sides, giving everyone a great chance to see this beautiful waterfall. So as we make our way upstream, you'll see a bunch of smaller waterfalls on either side here. So again, those are only being fed from the runoff of all that rainfall. In fact, nearly all the waterfalls on this island are only being fed from the runoff of the rain. So a few straight days of no rainfall, some of these smaller waterfalls will actually dry up until the next rainstorm. So we're going to start off on the right side first, but that is the Jurassic Park waterfall down there. And on the left side, the Jurassic Park Falls. So in the making of this movie, they had to build a special wooden platform right at the edge of the water there, just so they could land a helicopter at the base of this waterfall. And before anybody asks, unfortunately, no, you cannot hike back in here. Well, that's because this is all on private property, and they allow no hikers back in here. So the only way most people get to see this waterfall in person, well, it is by aircraft. Now, this land around us, owned by the Robinson family. Liza Sinclair, she's the matriarch. She sailed over from New Zealand back in 1863. She came over to Kauai to buy some land to raise cattle on. She ended up buying over 100,000 acres worth of land. She also gave King Kamehameha IV $10,000 in gold for the island of Ni'ihau. That lies 17 miles off our western coast and is known as the Forbidden Isle. So this canyon we're going to cross here, this is called the Olokele Canyon. Believe it or not, all this too belongs to the Robinson family. I often get asked around here is, why is this dirt around us so red? Well, during a volcanic eruption, iron ore is brought to the surface. Many centuries later, that then becomes iron oxide, or what's known as rust, staining everything that red there. There's a little ridge line. It's going to be passing directly beneath us here shortly. Well, this is the property divide between the Robinsons and the state. So from this point forward, everything is all state-owned land. So we're now entering the Waimea Canyon, or as Mark Twain coined this, the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. However, unlike the real Grand Canyon, much of this was not formed through runoff or erosion. So millions of years ago was a massive shift in the tectonic plate, splitting the Earth, giving us what we have here today. So there's a ridge line just alongside the left of us here. That's where you're going to find highways 550 and 552. So those are the roads that take you up here to the Waimea Canyon. There are a number of scenic overlooks. There's a museum, restaurant, and gift shop all near the very top. So we're going to start out the right side first, but I'll bring it around to the left side here shortly. But just off our right front coming up here is a waterfall called Waipo'o Falls. Reservoir. Now it is stocked with rainbow trout. They open it up once a year for a couple of months for us to come fishing. It's the only place on island though that actually requires a fishing license. And some of the wildlife that can be found up in these parts, you're going to find the wild boar, the black-tailed deer, and along the cliff face are those mountain goat. All species introduced over time, either on purpose or by accident, all of them for hunting to control the population.
Hope you're enjoying the beautiful scenery so far. If you haven't seen our Kauai Helicopter video, please check the link appearing now.
So there's a bunch of cleared land off our left-hand side. About 7 years ago was a forest fire. It burnt up all that land. The state just recently got around to clearing off all the dead trees, and they're going to be planting a more native species of tree down there that you guys are talking about. Up on our left-hand side, we may get glimpses of it here shortly, but there's some golf ball-shaped buildings going to be sticking up out of the tree line. That's called the Makaha Ridge Tracking Station, so it is operated by the U.S. Navy.
Mention iron and iron oxide for the red color. Do you know what would cause green color besides vegetation, something like the green sand beach?
That is, oh shoot, it's like an emerald. It's also a byproduct of volcanic eruptions and marcasite. If you go to the Big Island, you can see a lot of flecks of that in some of the craters there. The only green sand beach we have here, I believe, is in Wainiha along the northeastern side of the island.
Also, make sure to check out all our Big Island videos.
So we're starting on the left side first. We'll bring it around to the right shortly. But just off our left-hand side is a stretch of sandy beach over there. That's the Kalalau Beach, the end of the 11-mile Kalalau Trail. In this valley ahead here, this is called Honopu. In 1978, Hollywood remade the King Kong movie. This year was Skull Island. Sandy beach off our right side of Kalalau Beach. Now that Kalalau Trail, it ranks 7 or 8 out of 10 in a level of difficulty. They say it takes those guys on average 8 to 10 hours just to hike out here to this beach. This large valley here, this is called the Kalalau Valley. It is the largest valley found here along the Nepali. It was also the last to be inhabited by the ancient Hawaiians. I read that as late as 1898. Nearly 5,000 Hawaiians still call this valley home. So the ancient Hawaiians made these valleys home because they were surrounded on 3 sides by impenetrable cliffs. So they only had to defend the ocean-facing side against possible invaders. However, with the introduction of weapons and iron, they no longer had to live in such isolation, so they all eventually moved to the main parts of the island, where everything was much more easily accessible. So growing up, I was always told that the Nepali was formed millions of years ago by a massive landslide that basically broke up a chunk of the island here, sending it off into the ocean. But then 3 summers ago, my son was home on vacation from college. We were up in the Waimea Canyon doing a little hike, when we came across 2 geologists that were here on the ground to study how the Nepali was formed. Apparently, there's no empirical evidence that would support that much land mass sliding off into the ocean. But one of the things the scientific community is aware of, they told me the Nepali is currently eroding at about the same rate that your toenails grow in a year, just under 2 inches, they said. Move this around to the right side shortly. So you follow this coastline all the way until it ends. When you get there, look about 3/4 of the way up. The first sharp, pointy little peak you come across is called Mount Makana. But in 1957, Hollywood filmed a movie here called South Pacific. Well, with special effects, they cut that pointy little peak off, put that out in the middle of the ocean, called that the mystical island of Balihai. And off the right side here, this is Hanakoa Falls. So again, off the right side, all at the very end, the first sharp pointy little peak is Mount Makana or Balihai. And if anybody's wondering if that word Balihai has any meaning in the Hawaiian language, I will tell you that it does not. In fact, the Hawaiian alphabet, it doesn't even have the letter B in it. As we come across this ridge line here, just off our left front, you'll see a circular shaped bay there. That's the Hanalei Bay. The town of Hanalei surrounds it. Now Hanalei means lei-shaped. Hopefully they'll have that bridge back open again. It's been closed for the last couple of days because when we get heavy rainfall here along the North Shore, what happens is the river crests and covers over the whole road that leads into the town of Hanalei there, and also sometimes covers over the bridge. And then further left, on the other side of Hanalei, is the town of Princeville. Another little interesting piece of tidbit. That land once belonged to King Kamehameha IV, who had a young son by the name of Prince Albert. Now, unfortunately, little Prince Albert died at a very young age, but the caretaker of all that land was a guy by the name of Robert Crichton Wiley. Well, he had a fondness for little Prince Albert, so when he passed away in memory of him, he named all the king's land Princeville. When Kauai and the surrounding island chain became a territory and later on a state, well, that name stuck. So you notice things are a little bit wetter here, a whole lot greener. So Kauai is the most northern island with any type of vertical elevation. So as the trade winds bring those moisture-laden clouds across the Pacific, well, they stack up against these mountain faces along the north and eastern facing sides of the island, squeezing all the water out of them like a giant sponge, giving this side and the north and the east side of the island about 2 to 3 times more rainfall per year than along the south and west side of the island.
Could you please tell us where the bridge is that's closed?
Well, it's a little difficult to see, but you see where The town of Hanalei is on the farthest left part of it. If you go straight towards that tree line, there's buildings and houses above it. Somewhere in that area, I don't know exactly where, well actually I do. On the outskirts of town, you'll kind of see a river that meanders through the grassy areas and kind of curves off to our left. Where that river meets the trees up ahead there, that's where the bridge is located, and it's currently closed up above in the town of Princeville.
Thank you.
Do you know the name of this mountain?
So this, the mountain here,
Yeah.
this is called Na Molokama.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So down below us here is the Hanalei River Valley. Along the riverbed there, you'll see some silverish green colored treetops scattered about. Well, that's the state tree of Hawaii that's known as the kukui nut. Ancient Hawaiians, though, they called this tree the candle nut tree. That's because they used to take the nuts, they'd light them on fire, it'd give them their candlelight for about 20 to 25 minutes. And if you guys have spent any time at all here already on the island, you probably already asked this question, but that is, why are there so many doggone chickens here on Kauai? Well, in some cultures, even though it's illegal, chicken fighting is very popular, so many raise their fighting chickens in their yards. Well, we also used to have an egg-laying farm here on the island that provided the residents with fresh eggs. But in 1992, Hurricane Dominique, it was a Category 5 hurricane that swept through the island, damaging or destroying many of those chicken coops. They got loose. They have no natural predator here. They breed like rabbits. Well, now we have a new island bird we call the Kauai chicken.
Is any of this area viewable from that vista point up in Princeville?
No, Princeville is way back behind us there. The only way to come see this area would be, there's a trail called the Power Line Trail. It's along our left-hand side, as you'd have to hike the Power Line Trail. Now from Princeville and in the town of Hanalei, you can just see the mouth of the Hanalei Valley here. So there's a large mountain to our right here, covered in clouds. This is Mount Waialeale. At over 5,100 feet or 1,700 meters, it's the second tallest mountain peak on the island. It's also one of the world's wettest spots. There's a rain gauge up top there, and some years it registers over 440 inches of rain. So just to put that in perspective, that's over 36 feet or 12 meters of rainfall per year. I just saw a report in the newspaper. In the 24-hour period ending sometime yesterday, they received over 27 inches of rainfall up there. But there's also a little pond up top there, and when the ancient Hawaiians used to go up there to worship, they noticed that when the winds blew, it caused the waters to ripple on that pond. Hence the name Waialeale. It means the rippling waters. So millions of years ago was a massive volcanic eruption. Well, it blew out the east-facing wall of the crater here, giving us an opportunity to take a peek into the caldera, or the cone, of an extinct volcano. Waterfalls you see inside here are only being fed from these clouds above us. In fact, within hours of these clouds going away, almost all these waterfalls will actually dry up. But seeing all these waterfalls here just reinforces that this is my favorite spot here on the island.
The name of these falls?
They don't have a name because they're only temporary. They're not permanent waterfalls, so they don't give them any names.
Oh.
So if you guys look out on either side and scattered through the island, you see those trees with the large flat canopies. So these are called albizia. Many here will say they came from South Africa, but through a little research I found out that this variety actually came from Indonesia. They were brought over in the early 1900s to forest some of the island because they're a rapid growing tree. In fact, it's been said these are the fastest growing trees in the world. They can grow up to 20 feet or 7 meters in their first year, 120 feet or 40 meters in their lifetime. But with this rapid growth, they're very weak. So during some of the stronger windstorms, they fall over. Just like we've seen the last couple of days, a lot of the roads got blocked off yesterday because a number of these trees fell over. And they also cause a lot of damage when they fall over structures. They're also highly invasive. Just look around the island, they're taking over. So there's millions of dollars being allocated to the state to stop the spread of this tree. Here on Kauai, what they're doing is taking that wood, they're turning it into wood chips. There's a state-of-the-art biomass electric generation plant on the island. It supposedly has an eco-friendly way of burning these wood chips, generating some renewable energy for the island. Beneath us in a grove. These are eucalyptus trees. The eucalyptus is going to be also be used as a fuel source for that biomass electric generation plant. Now, as your travels have taken you around the island, you may have noticed a lot of pastures with cattle grazing in them. So cattle ranching has become a very profitable replacement for the sugar cane. I'm told that the restaurants on the mainland, they really prize the Kauai beef because it's all grass-fed and free range. To the right side shortly, but on our left hand side is a waterfall called Wailua Falls. Now there used to be an old TV show, some of you might remember it or have at least heard of it. It was called Fantasy Island. Well, that was seen in many episodes with Tattoo the little guy pointing up to the sky saying, "The plane, the plane." More recently though, season 3, last episode of The Amazing Race, the contestants ziplined down from the top. Industry went out of business. They sold their land off in little blocks, and as people bought up that land, many started farming on their own. Now those that'll grow produce, kind of like on our left hand side here, many of them will sell that produce at the local farmers markets. You can pretty much find one somewhere here on the island almost every day of the week. So Kauai has this goal to be a little more self-reliant on its energy production. In a quest to meet that goal, if you look just off our right front there, just not too far away, but there's that large mass of gray in the grass there. Well, that's a brand new solar farm that was built in conjunction with Tesla. Those little white buildings to the right of it, those are all Tesla batteries. So during the daylight hours, as the energy is produced, it gets stored into those battery units, released back into the grid at night. We want to try and replace some of those fossil fuel-fired power plants on the island. One of those is also to our right. It's surrounded by all those beige-colored fuel tanks you see there. We import millions of gallons of fuel oil every single year just to meet our energy production demands.
We heard that Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook bought some land here. Do you know in which area?
So if you look off in a distance to our left, as far as you can see before that mountain range that's kind of off to the very far left, it's in a town called Moloa'a. Him and his wife bought nearly 800 acres worth of land that we here call Zuckerland. Yeah, so off in the distance, all the way to the left of us there, that flat land that goes all the way to the ocean, over in that area is where he owns nearly 800 acres worth of land. So guys, we have been given our clearance to land, so I want to take this opportunity to say mahalo nui loa, or thank you very much, on behalf of myself, Paka, and the rest of the ground crew there at Kauai Helicopters. Despite a few bumps here and there throughout the island, I sure hope you guys had as much fun as I did exploring the island today. I hope the remainder of your stay here on Kauai is a pleasant one, and I'll be on the ground shortly. Once we do get on the ground and everybody's off, don't run away.
Thanks for watching this video till the end. Make sure to watch our other Hawaii video and travel vlogs around the world. Please comment below what did you like the most, and if you have any questions or recommendation, we're here and listen to you. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the flight as we land.
Again, Isabel and Lawrence. Haole laha na, or happy birthday to you both.
Mommy, c'est-tu cool être en avant? Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Well guys, today is my first day on the job. I hope I did okay. I didn't scare you guys too badly, did I?
No. Do you like flying helicopters?
I'm telling you, I'm living the dream. When I was a little boy, I used to watch these helicopters fly over my house. I told my dad that's what I want to do when I grow up. Alright guys, be just a second here. If you want to unbuckle your seatbelts at this time, you can.